So just continuing on with our studies for inequalities, you guys, today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to solve and graph the inequalities. And the good thing about this is that when you're solving, it's pretty much the same thing as when you guys are solving with when it's just a regular equal sign. There's just one new rule, and I'm sure we'll get to an example that will demonstrate what that new or extra thing is. And then I'll show you how to graph these. The graph is really simple though. It's not a y equals mx plus b kind of graph. It's just a number line graph, and that's pretty simple too. Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with some of these problems here, and let's just get right here to number one. So remember, just treat this for the solve part, two parts, solve and graph. Solve first though. So to solve this, here is what my recommendation is. My recommendation is that when you solve, you get the variable on the left side, okay? So whatever you can possibly do, get that variable on the left side, because it's going to help us to graph. If you can get that variable on the left side, okay? So I know that you guys are good and you guys can solve either side, but try and get that variable on the left side when we're doing inequalities. So in number one, we're solving for u, okay? So first thing we need to get rid of is we need to get rid of this 2. So we're going to subtract and subtract. And then I end up with canceling. So I have negative 3u. 8 minus 2 is 6. Now to solve for this u, we have to divide by negative 3. And here's where our new thing is going to happen. So the only thing that's going to make this different. So when you divide or multiply, excuse me, by a negative number, what happens is, yes, this cancels u, and then, you know, on the right side, 6 over negative 3 is going to reduce to negative 2. But when you divide by a negative number, the only thing that is different about inequality solving is that instead of leaving this the way that it is, the inequality, you flip it the other direction, okay? And so that only happens again when you're dividing or multiplying by a negative number. So since we divided by negative 3 to get u by itself, we have to flip that sign the other direction. So don't forget that. Okay, that's the only thing that makes it different. Now we've solved it. U is less than or equal to negative 2. So we get to the graph. So the graph I told you is just a number line. Really simple. Put a little hash mark right here. Negative 2. And so when we graph these, if you have greater than or less than, so there's no line underneath, we say that this is going to be an open circle. If you have a greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, so you have the lines underneath, the circle, when we graph this, is going to be filled in, okay? So in this specific example, because we have the line underneath, the equal to, we put a closed circle right here on negative 2. And then what we do is we have to shade, okay? And the way that we shade is the way that the inequality is pointing. So the inequality is pointing to the left right now. So we shade everything. Oops, we shade everything to the left of that dot, okay? So that's why I was saying that it's I recommend you getting the letter on the left side, because that when the letter's on the left side, it's really simple. You just use whichever way it's pointing, whichever direction it's pointing, okay? So pretty simple, pretty straightforward there. So those are the few extra things that happen here, and I'm actually going to change this color so that we can have two varieties here. Okay. Let's move on to number 2. Let's practice. So first thing, if you're looking at this, remember order of operations has to do with the parentheses first. So you might be tempted to do minus 4 plus 5. That is not good. Parentheses first, which means distribute and distribute. Okay, so 2x minus 4 plus 25 plus 5x is greater than 0. Let's combine like terms on the left side. So if I combine like terms, I have a 2x plus a 5x, which is going to give me 7x. Okay, so those guys are gone. Let me cross them out. Then I have a negative 4 plus 25, which will give me plus 21. Okay, is greater or equal to 0. Let's solve for this x right here. So we're going to move 21 over by subtracting. Okay, so these negative 21s right here on the left side, they cancel out, and what I'm left with is a 7x, which is less than or equal to negative 21. To solve this, I got to divide by 7. So did I divide by a negative number? So was the 7 negative? It was not negative, okay? Even though this negative 21 is negative on that side, since we didn't have to divide by anything negative on this left side, it just stays, the symbol, the inequality stays, and so we don't have to flip it. Negative 21 over 7 is negative 3. And so there's our final answer. So again, you guys, you don't have to flip the symbol because the 7 wasn't negative. Only when the thing attached to the x or the variable is negative, that's when you have to flip it. So since the negative 21 was on the other side, we don't have to worry about flipping. Last step here, we've got our variable on the left side, so we're going to be good to go for graphing. Okay, so put a little hash mark here. Call it negative 3 because that's what you got for your answer. Decide based on the symbol if it's an open or closed circle. So since it has a line underneath, it's going to be closed. Okay, and then the inequality is pointing to the right side, so we're shading to the right. Okay, so see how this arrow right here, it's pointing towards the right or towards the negative 3. You shade in that direction too. So there's two parts of this answer. You guys. It's the what the is in the box, and then it's also the graph. Okay, I have the two special cases here that I want to go over, so let's go ahead and go through number 3 now. Looking at this, gut reaction is to distribute, hopefully. So I have 6 minus 4x is greater than 10 minus 4x. Now what you want to do, remember I told you, is to try and get the variables on the left side. So let's add 4x on both sides. Okay, and let's see what happens here. So when you do that, if you look at this left side, I have a negative 4x plus 4x, so that cancels. Oh, I have the same thing again here. That cancels too, so I don't even have any more variables here. So remember when we were learning how to solve and stuff, there was a special situation. If all the variables cancel out, remember you check at this point to see if this is a true or false statement. So, is 6 greater than 10? Is that true? It's not true, okay? So it's a false statement. And remember what happens when it's false, you guys? We say that there's no solution. Okay? So if you work this out and the thing ends up being not true, it's false. You say that there's no solution, and the good thing is that when there's no solution, we have no graph. Okay, so you don't even have to worry about a graph. So what would you put on the line? You would just tell me that it's no solution, and I would already assume that there would be no graph because it's no solution. Okay? Alright, my friends, here we go. Let's go to our last one here. We have this negative right here, which is a little tricky. I guess it's a little tricked up. So what they want you to do is they want you to distribute that negative into the parenthesis. Okay? Ooh, what the heck was that? Okay, they want you to distribute that negative to the parenthesis. So it's going to go here, and it's going to go to that y. So here is what I have. 4y minus 1 minus y is less than, I have that 2y, which I don't need to worry about. Yes, there's a 1 right here. You guys, if you distribute that into the parenthesis, though, it's not going to change anything, okay? So it's just going to stay 1 plus y. So the signs don't change. What's inside doesn't change, because when you multiply by 1, remember, it's just itself, okay? Let's start collecting like terms here. On the left side, I have a 4y minus y. So I have a 3y left over. Cross out, because I'm done with those. Only thing left on that side is a negative 1. Okay. Combine on this side, 2y plus y is 3y. And then I have a positive 1 left over. So I'm there. Remember, to get going with this, the best thing you can do is to try and get the variables on the left side. So let's subtract the 3y, subtract the 3y. And see what happens there. On this left side, they definitely cancel because I have a positive negative. Oh my gosh, again, on the right side, I have a positive negative. So now everything's gone. So since there's no variables, we're on our final stretch here. It's a special circumstance. So we check and see if this is a true or false statement. So -1 is less than 1, true or false? It's true, right? So remember, when it's true, we call it all real numbers. So you can write it out, or you can use the special math symbol for all real numbers, which is this guy, two little lines right there, and then you make an R. You connect it from the bottom, or sorry, from the farther one. Okay, so it's all real numbers. So all you can do is you can either box the symbol or you can box the whole phrase, whatever you want to do. But there is a graph for all real numbers that I want you to do, and so no solution is the only time you're not going to have a graph. Okay, if it's all real numbers, the graph I want you to draw looks like this. So you go here to here, and instead of putting a number in the middle, what you're going to do is just put 0 in the middle. Okay? And you don't have to worry about closed dot or open dot, because all real numbers basically means you can pick any number that you want and put it in there for y, and it could be any number on that number line, and it's going to work out. Okay? So all you do is you just shade, you just shade the whole thing. Okay, so no need for a dot. You just put a 0 right here and then just shade the whole thing. Okay, so if you cancel out the variables, it's going to be a special circumstance, either number 3 or number 4. So they're going to be a no solution or all real numbers, and the way you figure it out is you read your last line and figure out if it's true or false. Okay, numbers 1 and 2 are the solving ones. Okay, and remember, for the graph, you want to put all the variables on the left side, because it's going to help us graph, because it's going to tell us whichever way the inequality is pointing, that's the way we shade. So here in number 1, since it's pointing towards the U or towards the left side, that's why I shaded to the left. In number 2, since it's pointing towards the -3 or pointing towards the right side, that's why I shaded to the right. Okay, and again, remember that trick only works if the variable is on the left side. And then the last thing to figure out is, when you're graphing it, are we going to put a closed dot or open dot? Both of these ended up being a closed dot because they all have the line underneath. But if they were, if they didn't have the equal to line underneath, so let's say we got x is less than 1, the way that would look is it would look like this. So there's my hash mark 1. It's an open circle. You can't really tell right there. I tried to make it open, pointing towards the right, so I shade that way. Okay, and that's it. So don't forget to take the quiz.